Hello there, football fans. We're back again with football gist. Every time Ole Gunnar Solskjaer receives a threat to his job, somehow he just finds a way to silence his critics and just get on with it and pull off a stunning and decisive victory that puts him right back in place in pole position for his job as Manchester United coach. Once again, Solskjaer was able to shock the whole world this weekend. Kudos to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer once again for retaining his place as Manchester United coach. When against all odds, when all the odds were against him that Manchester City was going to thrash Manchester United, he pulled another rabbit out of the bag. This video is going to discuss Solskjaer's roller coaster journey in Manchester United and whether or not he deserves a new contract in this club. So welcome to Football Gist. Please remember to subscribe, remember to click on the notification bell, and welcome back. After more than 4 hours of football, I think Manchester United went for 3 matches goalless, 3 draws with Real Sociedad, with Chelsea, and with Crystal Palace. 3 barren games. The calls for Ole out resurfaced again, and by all means, nobody felt Manchester United had stood a chance against Manchester City in the last Premier League game they just played over the weekend. I actually wanted to put out a video concerning the demands for Ole's resignation, the demands for Ole's sack, but I felt I had a hunch that this game against Manchester City was going to be different. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to hold on and wait till the Manchester City game over the weekend. And I think I've been vindicated because I'm one of the few people who felt that once he's being pushed to the wall, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will come up with the goods, and that's exactly what they did by beating Manchester City at the Etihad for the third consecutive time. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, for all his PE teacher status, was able to outfox Pep Guardiola by beating Manchester City by 2-0. Well, I like to say that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came into Manchester United as a Manchester legend, and I feel he was what I would say simply an experiment. He was a stopgap. It was an interim arrangement that did not, nobody really felt he was going to get the job on the full time, but somehow he got the job. He had this amazing unbeaten run after he got the job for a couple of weeks, and then everybody just thought, you know what, by March of that year, he got the job on a permanent basis. So, and then the results began to decline, and ever since then, it's been ups and downs for Manchester United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So I'm going to examine some of the strong points and some of the weak points of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in that team and why that team has been so inconsistent. The first major feature of Ole's leadership of that team, I would say, is there is one thing that every other coach that came to Manchester United after Alex Ferguson left has not been able to do. Everybody came having to fill in all Alex Ferguson's big shoes. Everybody tried to fill in those big shoes of winning trophies year in, year out. And that is not a very easy task. After 26 years at the helm, it was going to be very, very difficult for any coach to come in and repeat the feats that Sir Alex Ferguson had set, the standards he set in that team. So every other coach came in and tried to, have stopgap measures to win trophies, to keep Man U at the level Manchester United was supposed to be. Truthfully, nobody actually thought about rebuilding that. Nobody had the time, nobody had the patience to rebuild that team. And that's the one thing Ole has done. Ole has tried to rebuild Manchester United. Louis van Gaal and Mourinho, were trying to just keep the laurels and keep their reputation, because they came with big egos, they came with big reputations. They just had to keep the winning streak going and so on and so forth. But that's where they failed. So they were all temporary measures. So the main roots, the main issues with that team were not dealt with. Alex Ferguson, I dare say, left that team an ailing team. He left a team that was almost dead after winning the 20th trophy, so the 20th Premier League trophy. So it was difficult for any other coach coming in. Moyes suffered, Van Gaal suffered, Mourinho also suffered because there was no development plan within those 3 coaches. Ole has attempted to build this team from scratch. Now he came in and first of all started to dispose of deadwood, aging players, and so on in the team, and started to build that team with young players, and then trying to infuse a few experienced, more talented and experienced players as he goes along. So Alexis Sanchez, Ashley Young, Smalling, Herrera, and so on, Valencia, Fellaini, Rojo all had to leave, and then we now had a bunch of younger players. He now stuck with a bunch of younger players who aged between mid 20s to mid 20s and below, from 26, 25 down below. So we now have Wan-Bissaka, Maguire. Wan-Bissaka came in. Bruno Fernandes. Bruno came in at 25 years, 26. Maguire 26. And so on. So you now have a Manchester United team that is far, far younger than what it was. And then you've also seen that even the recruitment in recent times, we've seen Solskjaer try to go for Jack Grealish, Solskjaer try to go for Jadon Sancho. These are all young players. He's now eventually gotten Amad Diallo and Pellistri, who are all very young and upcoming players. He retained Scott McTominay. He retained Mason Greenwood and also Brandon Williams from the academy. So this is a very, very young side. And I think that's a way to go. That's a positive thing that Ole has done for this team. So when you have a crop of young players, groom them together and then infuse a bit of experience here and there, then I think that's a forward-looking team. That's a futuristic team he's trying to build. So on that count, I give it to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for a job well done. Occasionally, we have seen occasional flashes of brilliance from Ole and Ole's team. Like the result we saw over the weekend, the 2-0. I mean, we've seen him beat Pep Guardiola for all his glory. He's beaten Pep Guardiola 4 times as again, lost only 3 times. The only coach to have done that, internationally. So I give that to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer again for pulling out those results when necessary. He's been able to finish. Man U finished third last season. Now the second, looking good for second position this season. So these are little things. On the whole, yes, there's a lot of criticism. He's facing a lot of criticism, and deservedly so. Deservedly so. The 2-0 win against Man City does not in any way do justice, does not in any way overrule or erase the black spots in that team, does not in any way reduce the cracks in that. It is evidently a lot of crack in that team. So the 2-0 win against Pep Guardiola's Man City does not water down on the issues with that team, and I'm not going to neglect that. So I'm going to say, okay, for instance, now we have to give him kudos. I'll maintain that we have to give him kudos for instance, the unbeaten away run that has extended to 20-something games, which is really amazing considering the struggles that team has had this season. So that's so much for all. So I think that's, like I said, that's the major thing I would say Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has done in Manchester United. He's been able to start a proper rebuilding process that no other coach after Alex Ferguson was able to do. But on the downside, it's evident that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does not have the prerequisite experience at this level. After coaching in Cardiff and Molde, he's not exactly that world-class experienced coach you would expect a club of Man United's caliber to hold down on a permanent basis. But so that's some of his weakness, and that weakness has trickled down into a lot of other features, a lot of other issues with that team. Mourinho and Van Gaal were able to win at least a trophy. Mourinho, I think, won 2. Van Gaal won the FA Cup. But Ole has lost in 4 semi-finals. That just goes to show me he just doesn't have that extra push to go over the line. So 4 semi-finals, that says a lot about work he needs to do with that team. Again, Ole, for me, is a rather weak coach. He's not been able to wield that influence, that authority, and push his players to the extreme. And you see that judging by the experience that other coaches have had in Manchester United, Ole seems to be pampering his players a little too much. I mean, from Mourinho's experience, even Van Gaal's experience, it was alleged the players sort of ganged up against the coaches and got the coaches kicked out. Ole, I feel, has learned from that and he's trying to pamper his players. But in doing that, it's working for him in one way. But on the other hand, it's also counterproductive because you can't seem to get the best out of players. He doesn't really have a strong personality. He doesn't really have a strong character. And that is also reflective in his team. There is no steel. There is no tough strength, mental strength. There's no mental character in that team. More often than not. There are games when you see the players put in that extra bit and then grind out a result. But on a general note, Manchester United seems to lack that strength of character, and that is reflective in the type of coaching that the team is getting. That is also, I mean, we have Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we have Michael Carrick, we have McKenna. These are all not exactly the most strong presence. They don't have exactly the strongest of presence, on the bench, and this reflects on the performance of the team. Again, I would also say that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has not been able to get his players to perform consistently enough. At a point like 6 weeks ago, Manchester United was topping the league by 3 points, and in just 6 weeks, Man U dropped down to a 15-point deficit. I mean, how do you explain that? That is a capitulation of extreme proportions, and so that goes a lot. That still goes to say a lot about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's character. So that is a big problem too for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And then again, another major concern people have, I also have about him, is the lack or insufficient tactical ability. I seriously do not think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has the tactical clout. He doesn't have the tactical aptitude to propel that team to where it ought to be. He's still learning on the job as far as I am concerned. Ole he doesn't have it. He has his strengths, he has weaknesses, but I don't think tactically he has it. I think he's more dependent on individual players to perform. Or Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford on the odd day, Anthony Martial, Edinson Cavani. You find these players coming up to pull the rabbit out of the bag and rescue a point or rescue a game for Manchester United. Oftentimes, we cannot actually nail this down to Ole's tactical genius. It is mostly about the players. But then again, all these are not, everything in Manchester, every problem is not strictly about Ole's inability. There's also a lot of problems that are beyond Ole. After 26 years of Alex Ferguson's reign in Manchester United, it was going to be very difficult for anybody to take over that job, like we have seen from David Moyes to Louis van Gaal to Jose Mourinho. We have seen everybody has struggled. Mourinho and Van Gaal, by any standards, are world-class coaches, world-class and experienced coaches, but they found it difficult. They proved how difficult it can be to coach that Manchester United side. So that is to show you that the problems in Man United are beyond Ole. It's not just about Ole's deficiencies, okay? Now, another issue is the board. We know the board has not been as supportive as it ought to be. That is another major setback that Ole has had to face. Then again, there's the issue of the lack of quality. I will maintain it that there's a serious lack of quality players in Manchester United. If we take a look across that team, we will only find a few players with the quality, with the world-class quality expected of a team of Manchester United's caliber. If you look at that Manchester, okay, I often make this comparison. You keep the starting lineup of the 1998-1999 winning side and that of the current team. How many players in the current Manchester United team will walk into the starting 11 that won the treble? Hardly anybody. Perhaps just Bruno Fernandes. Just maybe Bruno Fernandes might just, have a little tussle with Paul Scholes in that midfield. You won't see a Scott McTominay or Fred upstaging a Roy Keane. You will not find a Rashford upstaging a Ryan Giggs on the right, and you will not find Mason Greenwood upstaging, say, David Beckham, on the right. So it's going to be very, very difficult to find that same amount of quality, that same caliber of quality in the current side. So there's a dire lack of quality in the current squad, and that is also part of the problems that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has to face. You can only count maybe Bruno Fernandes, who is like the extremely talented player in that squad. Cavani is 32, and is on his way out. Pogba is world class, but he hasn't been able to perform consistently. So, but you have Rashford and Greenwood as just, they're just work in progress. They're not yet there where they ought to be. So terrible as Man United may have been, after David Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, the board cannot continue hiring and firing players. So I suppose that's why they have stuck with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who is a club legend. All right. So now, if we look back and consider the fact that for 4 years, Sir Alex Ferguson struggled for 4 years and was even on the verge of a sack before he started getting right, and that culminated in the 26 successful years he's had in Manchester United. Then you will realize how difficult that job is. And when you also look at the fact that in today's market, there's so much money going around to every other club, it becomes increasingly difficult, to maintain the standard, maintain the level. So for me, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer might not be the messiah, but with some of his achievements, like the current unbeaten run away, and some of the unbelievable victories he's pulled off in certain games, I think he deserves a pat on the back. And at this point, I would say that what he has done, what he's doing, is simply laying a foundation for a stronger team in the future. He started a process that should benefit the team in the long term. So, but whether or not he's the man to take the team to the next level, that is yet to be seen. I don't see that just yet. But right now, I think he should be given the time to continue the rebuilding process. And then with time, hopefully, if he can step up after building this team, then who knows? He might just, continue in a long-term capacity. Otherwise, I think he's serving the right purpose at the right time. I think he's the right man for the job at this point. I don't know what you think. I'd like to know what you think. So I'd like to have your comments in the comment section below. Please, let's hear what you have to say about Ole. Are you Ole in or are you Ole out? And please remember to subscribe and also to click on the notification bell so that we can move ahead. All right, thank you very much, and then we'll see you again shortly.